has participated in this current game has had glowing, um, you know, recommendations and experiences. So our football team is really excited about that. Football coaches typically are not great multitaskers, but we've been doing a lot of that between recruiting and now we're in full bowl game preparations. We do have a signing date come Wednesday, and we'll have a short press conference there. It probably won't be as extensive as what the old days were, but that's coming up on Wednesday. So hopefully we'll see some of the same people here on Wednesday as well. A couple notes, Cooper Roth has been invited to the East-West Shrine game, so we're certainly excited about that. Cooper's an excellent place kicker and now has turned into the all-time leading scorer at the University of Wyoming. Logan Wilson continues to bring in some individual honors. I saw today, I believe he was third team by the AP. That's you AP guys. I would put him on first team, but that's the media. Anyhow, I'm being a little bit sarcastic there. Nobody laughed. Thank you.
I thought it was funny.
Thanks, appreciate it. But it's great to see him get that recognition, and Logan is an unselfish player, and hails from the state of Wyoming. He's worked really hard, and he's played really well. Another note, unfortunately, Javari Jackson will be suspended from the football team, and he will have no football activities, and there'll be no more comments other than this violation of team rules. As I said earlier, signing date's Wednesday, so we're looking forward to that. And we are deep into bowl preparations right now. Our opponent, Georgia State, an excellent football team, a 7-win football team that there's some common threads there with us. I mean, they beat Tennessee, an SEC opponent, at the beginning of the year. We have one common opponent, which is Texas State. They lost to them in triple overtime, so they had a close game. And if you remember our game with Texas State, it was fairly close as well. Well, I don't know Coach Elliott. I do know the coaching tree that he's from. He was an App State guy and worked with Jerry Moore, and also spent time at South Carolina. So from afar, a great deal of respect for what they've done at Georgia State. I think in a short amount of time, they're a really competitive football program, and they're from a part of the country that has been blessed to have a lot of good athletes, and that's apparent with what we see on tape. If you start out right away, their quarterback, Ellington, is we think an excellent senior quarterback. He's got good size. They're balanced on offense, and that always poses problems on defense. They can run the football against most all their opponents, and then they throw the ball well. And so, that's going to pose a challenge for us as we get ready. They do run a 3-4 defense, and, that's always a little bit of a change of pace for us because we're a 4-down team, and typically you kind of gravitate to the teams that, your team that you go against all the time in practice. With 4-down linemen, 3-down linemen's a little bit different. So we're going to need some preparation. However, we've faced a lot of 3-4 teams during the course of this year, some more successful times than others. But we're certainly excited about this ball game on the 31st. I know there's been a great outpouring of interest on our fans' part, and I think a lot of it is we've got a good football team. We've got an excellent opponent. We've got a great game time, the 31st, and we've got a great location in Tucson. So we're excited about that. So at this time, questions from anybody in the media? Yes, David.
Just to be clear, Javari, is he out for the game, for the bowl game?
Yes, and may longer. Right now he's suspended, and to use the term indefinite till some things get resolved, he's suspended. Okay? Other questions?
How else is the health of the team in terms of guys that you may or may not have right now? Coach, do you know?
One guy that's kind of on the bubble, Titus Swain, has been practicing. And so he's actually out of town right now. He's doing a citizenship test, which is big for him and his family. So we are certainly supportive of that. He will be returning shortly, but he did practice. It was not a full contact practice, but he did practice on Saturday. So we're encouraged about that. And we'll see how he progresses, but we're optimistic that he'll be cleared to play.
When do you expect him back?
From Dallas,
Yeah.
Wednesday. that's when we've been told the flight's coming back.
And how many practices do you have before you're gonna break for Christmas?
We're gonna practice, we'll practice all the way up until the 22nd, and we'll have practice every day. Actually, check that, we'll have a light practice on the 23rd, the morning of the 23rd. They'll be departing, and then we will have we'll convene in Tucson, and then we'll have a practice later in the afternoon, early evening on the 27th. So, you try to strike a balance, the number of practices that you have, the layoff that you have, and one thing that helped me through the years, my experience in Nebraska, we played in some of these later games, and there was quite a bit of layoff. Trying to Coach Osborne, I thought, was really good at having a formula. Some of the time that I was at my last school, we had a long layoff, and so there's a mix of what you do during the course of practice, and then also we're going to utilize some of these practices for developmental purposes. We have a young emerging football team, and so it's an opportunity for us to get a lot of fundamental work with some of these younger guys. And so while it won't be a hit fest, we're going to have some pretty robust practices, particularly with these younger players. So we utilize all that time wisely. Yes.
We're going to ask about the quarterbacks. Do you have any sort of update on how reps might be split going forward?
Right now, they've been pretty even. And so both guys have been working with the first unit. It was been good to see. What also has been really encouraging to see is the camaraderie of the group. Sean's even been a couple practices, on crutches, but all those guys support one another. And it's certainly been a real good time for Levi. He's getting more and more repetition. We had a 2-minute session on Saturday. I believe that might have been the first time he's gone through a 2-minute session. So these repetitions that he's getting in the game repetitions are invaluable for him. And we applaud Tyler. Tyler's been a competitive guy. He's going out there and sometimes a guy that's an entrenched starter or the starter may be a little bit resentful of another guy coming in and playing some, and that's not been the case. And so we'll continue to work through with these guys. We're going to need both of them. We'll make a determination who's the starter as we go. But right now we're in the mode of trying to get better.
Do you want to have that decision made before you leave, or will you evaluate that all the way up to game?
I think we may evaluate that all the way up to game time because both guys have been playing.
Yeah.
And so whether we choose to keep that same formula where both guys continue to play or where one guy's going to play the lion's share, I think some of that's going to be a reflection on how we progress. Yes, Kevin.
Coach,
Tough one coming.
Does Georgia
State
remind you of any Mountain West teams or anybody that we have played?
Well, I think their skill level certainly on par with Boise State. Their wide receivers, running backs, and things like that. They deploy their guys a little bit differently. They'll operate with more of a spread look. Boise was more multi-formation, but I think you could look at the skill level, and you've got a really experienced quarterback, and he makes really good decisions. I think he's completing about 63% of his passes. He stays on the field a lot. He's fairly mobile. So we got a tall task on our defense. The encouraging thing is we have played good defense, and we'll need to play well against Georgia State on defense to give ourselves a chance to win. Other questions? Yes.
This is a little bit off topic, but I know that you know the Bohl family from your time in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
You've known Joe since he was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Was it kind of surreal to see him holding the Heisman Trophy?
It certainly was because, Jimmy and I go back, way back. I coached his oldest son, Jamie, as a linebacker. And then Jimmy was on our staff. And then he also had another son, Dan. And then Jimmy was the first defensive coordinator that I hired at NDSU. And I can remember little Joe running around on the grass practice fields with my son Aaron, and it just seemed like yesterday. And then, we did track his recruiting progress. Jimmy would call us up and say, "Hey, can you look at my son's tape?" And Biggs and I looked and said, pretty good. We're probably not gonna be in a position to recruit him. And of course, he went to Ohio State, and, you know, I know there was a lot of conjecture after he left, whether he's gonna go back to my old school, Nebraska, because Jimmy had played there. You know, all those boys played there. His mom is from a town 40 miles from Lincoln, and he ended up at LSU and had a great career, and he's played great. And so hats off to the Burrow family, and he certainly got his athleticism from his mom.
Coach, you've mentioned a couple times that you're gonna have laser-like focus to win this game. How do you balance that laser-like focus, but still allow this team to, I guess, enjoy the whole atmosphere?
Well, that's comes with a lot of experience, because it needs to be an enjoyable experience. It's not a penalty trip. Some of it starts with the mentality of our football team, the culture of the football team. Our guys desperately want to win. They want to finish the year off on a high note. As much as it was frustrating, and our players were frustrated along with myself last year not being selected, I think that there's some, and we were eligible, there's some, you know, added fuel to the fire that, my gosh, we're going to seize this opportunity. Our players trust us that we're going to have the right balance on practices and activities when we're down there. And a lot of that comes down to trust and communication. And I think if you have that, you have a good mentality, our players want to win. And you also recognize that this is not, it's not like you're playing in game week. You've got an extended period of time. And so how you approach each practice, and there's got to be a